Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Our Community with Whitney Prather. Learn about what's happening in Stark and Tuscarawas counties and the surrounding areas. We're going to highlight interesting people, businesses, organizations, churches, events, and even more. Stay tuned. Today, I'm speaking with Amamda Dukes of Dukes Multimedia. Amamda and her husband are both entrepreneurs, reside in Canton, and have two amazing children. In 2019, Amamda graduated from Ohio Media School, began her own multimedia company, and that has opened up so many doors of opportunities for her. Today, we'll talk a little bit about that, but mostly about how Amamda battled and triumphed over mental health issues. I was really reminded about the goodness of God when speaking with her. He is a restorer, and he's so passionate about us. We really do serve a beautiful God. Enjoy this conversation. Guys, I'm so excited to be speaking with Amamda Dukes of Dukes Multimedia. We're going to talk about her business ventures and how she got started with a multimedia company. But first, we're going to get to know her. Amamda, how are you today?
I'm doing so fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
You are welcome. This is going to be such a treat for everybody. You know, yesterday we talked about mental health, and today we're going to talk about it too. We're going to personalize it a little bit and talk about your specific story. You said that you really battled mental health and that you have triumphed over it. So I am interested to know about your story.
So I will try and make this as brief as I can. So I think from a young age, I think I've always struggled with it a little bit. I always think most people do struggle with mental health for the majority part. Some are just more severe than others. So I had some in high school and growing up, just home life and things like that. But really, it really reared its ugly head when I had suffered a miscarriage. I was 9 months after my son was born, unexpectedly got pregnant again. And then I suffered a miscarriage, and literally a week after that had to get rushed to the emergency room and had an emergency hysterectomy, full hysterectomy. So it was a crazy time. And not only was like my body confused, my mind was confused too, because we was like, okay, we're pregnant, now we're not. And then now we can't get pregnant. So it was such a trying time. And I think that I just spiraled down and I didn't know how to deal. So I decided not to. I started, numbing it with alcohol. And, I was still moving forward, still trying to do stuff. I had high and low points. Somewhere in the middle of that, I decided that I should go to broadcasting school. And so we'll go back to broadcasting school.
Yeah.
So I did that. And in the mix of it, with me finding a piece of freedom, I felt like I could be this whole new person and escape the reality that I was in. So I started doing that. And I feel like when you move further out of your authentic form, you start feeling even worse mentally. So my depression and anxiety got worse. I started seeking attention in places I shouldn't have been seeking it in. And I was really feeling guilty about it. And I tried to commit suicide 2 times. And thank God, the first time I kind of came to like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? And I actually went and got help immediately at Crisis Center. So if anybody's out there feeling that way, like, please utilize them. And then the second time, that was the scary one, because I was done. I was done. I just knew everybody would be better off without me. I was doing everybody else plus myself a favor. I know a lot of times people think suicide is selfish. Being in it, I thought that way before too. So I'm not downplaying anybody's feelings or that they'd had to deal with it on the other side, but I can only speak for me, and other people that I spoke to have done it. To me, I felt like I was doing what was needed to be done for other people. In my head, I'm like, they'll be sad for a minute, but they will totally feel so much better when I'm gone. I'm hurting everybody around me. I'm hurting. And so to me, that was the answer. So, but thank God he had more plans for me. And it was then when I really realized, like, you have to get it together. You have to get the help that you need. And I didn't even know about IOP for anxiety and depression. I used to work at a drug and alcohol rehab facility center. And I just thought it was for recovered, like recovering
Yeah.
alcoholics and drug abusers. And so when my therapist told me about that, I decided to go on that program because I was like, no, I need to like, really hit it nail on the head. And it was like 3 days a week for a few hours, it was like 3 or 4 hours. And I learned so much there. The tools that I still have today. For those who suffer from anxiety and depression with a chemical imbalance, those things, you're going to need those tools every day. I definitely think these tools can help you come out of a situational anxiety and depression as well. But for this one, for me, it's definitely have been a chemical imbalance. So these are tools that I still use today, and I have to remind myself of about my worth and everything like that, and how to give myself a break. So that's why I said I triumphed over it, because I'm not crying because I woke up that day. I'm not feeling so heavy because I have to move and do this. And I'm a mom. So it was like, why am I feeling like this? Like I feel terrible. Like I shouldn't feel like this. I should want to get up and help and be with my kids. So it's really nice to feel like I'm not a morning person, so I don't want to say energized when I wake up, but that I have a goal for that day. I have dreams, I have a vision, and the biggest thing is that I have hope. I wake up every day with hope in my heart, and that's the key to me, the key ingredient that I needed to come over that hump of how do I seek help? How do I start seeing the light again? And I remember I always like to tell people this because everybody says like, one day it'll just click. You just wake up and it clicks. And kind of that's what happened to me, but it's not that easy because I remember I used to think it was funny. People said, you can't hide from God. I'm like, who thinks they can hide from God? It's not that I was hiding, but I definitely was ignoring him. It's like, I didn't want to answer to him either. And so I stopped talking to him. I stopped learning about him. And then the moment that I felt like I went to him for help is when my heart felt a little less heavy. And I woke up like, no, we can do this. Some days I may have to take it minute by minute, hour by hour, but I never felt like I can't do this. So I just like to be like that source for people who feel like they can't do this. This is never going to get better, because I've been there. I felt it. I mean, to the fullest extent. And I almost tore my whole family up. Well, I did kind of tear my whole family apart for it. And I'm telling you guys, like, there's hope. There absolutely is hope. And if I can just be like that example for people, then even if just for one person, then I will absolutely be happy for the remainder of my life.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that is like the good news in a nutshell.
Yes.
Like, wow, you were in a place of despair and wanting to end it all. And then just one, piece of surrender to God, and he just changed it all for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we need to Selah on that moment, because that is pretty remarkable. So you mentioned something about, like, in your talk, that everyone struggles with mental health to some degree. What do you mean by that?
I think that life is going to always throw things at you. Like, it's never going to be easy. Like, I think that's just part of living, going through the ups and downs, which is, why having a relationship with God is so important, because he knows that. He knows what's coming. He knows what's, going to be happening. And so I think at some point in everybody's life, you're going to deal with mental health, even if it's just like, the death of a loved one. That's mental health struggles, because that grief process is no joke either. So I don't think mental health goes untouched to anyone.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing that definitely needs to be, to me, I think it should be watched just like our regular health.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't even think of mental health as like a regular thing. Like, we think of it as, that family member over here that, is a little bit off or something. That's what we would say is, like, in quotations, that they're a little bit off. But, we don't think of our own self as having mental health and our issues pertaining to that at all. And I thank you for calling that out, that, grief is an episode.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I think that that's one of the most common things that people forget, are that we're all going to deal with something one day or other. And I think we live in such an extreme or nothing sort of mindset a lot of the time, like it's either this or that. But no, there's definitely so many other steps in between that we go through. And some people, they have the proper chemical imbalance to handle stress better than others, and some just don't. And that doesn't make one person better than the other. It just makes the way that they live life and how they have to handle things a little bit different.
Yeah. What are you thinking right now? This pandemic is really making it's making everyone think a little bit harder about mental health. And I think that the reason why you can make that statement of that everyone struggles with it and it hits a little bit differently is because I think in the landscape that we are in right now, we can identify that, okay, this is a traumatic situation that we're all going through right now, you know?
And everybody's handling it differently. So many times the weighing the pros and the cons of decisions are, okay, how is this going to affect me mentally, or how is it going to affect my kids mentally, opposed to physically? Like a lot of times those are how we're making decisions right now. Like, okay, how exposed are you going to be? Like how dangerous is it? Okay, but also how are we going to feel? What's going to be the longer lasting effect on this? And that within itself is stressful. So because you want to make the best, this informed decision.
Yeah. So you have two children. What are their ages and how are you helping them since you've been through, what you've been through? How are you helping them process their thoughts and their own mental health?
I love that you asked that. First of all, yes, I have two beautiful children. My daughter is 11 and my son is 6. And they are at some fun ages. Preteens, and he knows everything. So he's figured it all out. But specifically to my daughter, I had her when I was 19. So mistakes were made. And I'm definitely learning and growing, especially in the past few years. I've learned so much about myself as a mother. And she definitely struggles she's naturally like anxious and worried about stuff. And she literally has been that way since she was born. I try not to play the blame game on myself about, why were you so worried and upset? I was 19, so I was absolutely 100% stressed out about having a baby. I didn't finish college. I barely got started when I got pregnant. So there was a lot of guilt and stress that went into that. But she is actually in counseling. When I was going through a mental health struggle, me and my husband ended up separating, and that was very hard for her. Yeah. And so we ended up getting her in counseling for that particular thing. But now that me and my husband, by the grace of God, are back together and thriving and living and doing amazing, and she's still doing it, and she's learning so much about herself and teaching me a few things too. Like so we can talk, and I'm able to identify with her a lot. And it's instead of be like, okay, telling her, all right, so we're going to do this. You need to do that. Don't worry about this. What's in your control, what's not. I can now say, okay, Ma, so how can we do this? When it's not in our control, what can we do together? And it's so beautiful. It's brought us closer. And she's one, I know I'm her mom, but she's just one of those amazing kids. Like, I want to take all the credit for her being amazing, but I know full good and well that that's God. So I'm always going to give him the credit for it. I'm just praying that I'm being obedient and, being the vessel that he needs me to be as her mother, so she can be raised the human to do what he needs her to do. And for my son,
can we pause for a second and just say thank you, God, for restoration, not only in your marriage, but thank you, God, for restoring the relationship with you and your daughter, and just walking through that journey, like what the enemy meant for evil and how he meant to destroy you. Look at God. Yeah. Like, thank you, Father. And to anybody out here who is listening, who is going through a rough time, you just wait and see. Like, God is good and I love it. Okay, let's talk about your son now.
No, I appreciate you pausing for that, because that's like, look at God is like, I say that so many times a day because it's just obvious to me now. And I love that I can see it and feel it, and it's amazing. Yeah. So yes, just wait and see. I love that. Wait and see. But for my son, I feel like I'm such a I'm a better mother for him at an earlier age, just because I've learned so much. And a lot of people say, like, your first kid is always your practice run. My mom always jokes about that because I'm the baby, but I was still her hardest. But she's like, I needed to learn everything I need to learn before I get to you. So, and that's holding true for my son, about how to handle him in patience and just kind of picking your battles, because he's one of those determined kids that, like, if I tell him, if you do this, this will be your punishment, he'll weigh the pros and cons, like, oh, you know what, that'll be worth it. So by the time I tell him, okay, like, you're not getting this because you did that, he's like, okay. And he just takes it. And I'm like, I don't know if it's considered a punishment anymore because you totally accepted it. So just finding out how not to ruin that determination in him, but how to parent it and teach him lessons in the process is amazing. And also just making sure I check in with him and make sure he knows he can trust me and his dad. Like, he's amazing at communicating with the kids too. And just making sure that he knows he can trust us at telling us stuff. So, because I don't want my kids to feel like they have to have secrets from us or be afraid to tell us anything. That's my biggest thing. Like, we're always going to love you. You may disappoint us at times, but we're going to fix it. We're going to be here. So just making sure he understands that and make sure that trust is a strong foundation.
Yeah, I'm understanding that too. I just have one kid, and 5, 6 years old, we start lying and telling little, stories and stuff like that.
Exactly what's going on in my house with him is the lying.
Girl, I can tell you about what's happening this weekend. Oh my gosh, it was a big old episode. So anyway, I wanted to stress, and I think it's important to stress to your children that the family is the network that you can count on. And it doesn't mean that there won't be consequences, but that means that you're literally not getting thrown away. Like, we love you. We care about you. And you can tell us tough things, and we're strong enough to deal with it without, scaring you, essentially.
Yes,
like, there's going to be consequences, but this is the network that you can trust. So, it's a hard situation. And I'm thankful that God brings it back to our memories, how we were when we were 6 and 5 or 7. We have memories of how scared we were to tell our parents when we were going through something. So, now that we have gone through that, it's, we need to be parents who can be more responsive and responsible and listen to the Holy Spirit, but not at all sparing discipline, because
Agreed. One of the things that, because he prides himself on, he's brave and he's strong. So when he lies, I'm like, when you lie, that doesn't make you brave, because then you're not. The brave thing would be to tell the truth. So that kind of gets him, and then it helps build that characteristic of, even though you're afraid, like, trust that it's going to be okay, like, this is the right thing to do. Then I think you insert that gene of right and wrong, and this is how you go to the right side. And that's usually the harder side to pick, is doing what's right. So, and he's such a spunky little kid, so I'm praying that sticks.
These spunky little kids. How did we get from trying to figure out our lives to deciding that you wanted to go to multimedia school? Tell me about that.
So broadcast media, I've been in that since high school, and I kind of fell into, like, that was my niche. I always was that kid who was always talking and loud. And so when I found this, it was something that it was okay to be loud, and talking was a good thing, and knowing how to talk was even better. So I knew that was my niche for a long time. And, like I said, I had my daughter at 19. And one thing I knew is it required time, like strategic time. And I didn't want to spend that time away from her. God had given me this precious gift, and y'all, trust me, I questioned him. I thought he lost his mind. He knew me at 19. Why would he give me a child? So I wanted to make sure that I did the best that I could. So I put it down. And in hindsight, knowing what I know now, I definitely think that I could have went to school, but I don't think I would have been okay missing the moments that I missed. And that's okay if people choose one way or the other. There's no right or wrong. It was what I chose to do. So once both of my kids got in school at a decent time, I decided it was time for me to go back. I had got laid off from a job too. And my husband looked at me and he was like, you need to do something you want to do. You're going to keep job hopping. And I was like, you're right.
True
So
that.
that's when I looked into it and found the Multimedia School, and it was perfect. I didn't have to be in school long. I'm not a fan of traditional school. I'm hands-on. Show me, I got it. I already know this, so I have a foundation laid for it. So I did that and graduated in 2019. And this is all in the mix of this is where you guys got to give God the glory, because this was literally all in the heavy mix of my depression and anxiety and suicide attempts and everything. Matter of fact, the second suicide attempt was the day before my graduation.
Wow.
So it's not like the good things weren't happening. I just wasn't able to see the good around me because I was focusing on the dark. But so after I graduated, I, was trying to find, your way into the field. But in Stark County in Canton, Ohio, period, the market's kind of saturated. Most of the jobs are in Cleveland. A lot of the kids that went to those schools were already living in Cleveland. So you learn how to network. And although I knew people, I just couldn't quite get my foot in the doors that I wanted to get in. But they kept feeling like I didn't have enough experience, even though I'd been doing it since high school. I did it a little bit at the University of Akron. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to show them. So that's when I decided to do my own podcast. And when I was in school, had zero interest in podcasting. I like it, didn't pay attention in the class. I did the work and got done. I was here for radio. I liked doing TV. I was like, okay, I was not interested in podcasting. So I was like, well, I'll do that. So I went to a little training course at school. They do these free speaker trainings, and got more information, and I started it, and I fell in love. I liked the flexibility of it, what I could do, the things I could say, the people I could reach. And I just think that there's such a common misconception about podcasts, what they are. Oh, everybody has a podcast now. Yeah, but there's lots of people in the world. And but
they're very effective.
Even if we're both talking about the same topic, like say there's multiple mental health topics, and nobody has the story that I have. Nobody has the things that I need to say that God gave me. So I always tell people, do what's on your heart, do what you're passionate about. So and eventually I just had to make room for my podcast and my growth in media, and I wanted to help people. So starting my own business was just kind of the next natural step. My husband owns his own business. He encouraged me a lot. He's like, you just need to do this. You're good at it. You want to help people, do it. So I did. It's been going amazing. I've met some great people. I've learned even more than I thought I was going to learn. And it's amazing just kind of watch God use this vessel that seems so simple for amazing things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wonderful.
Thank you.
That is so cool. So, what's next for you? As you look at who do we really even know what's next? We don't know what's next, but, what do you feel is the next step?
Definitely my next steps are for me to start doing speaking engagements, becoming a keynote speaker, to share my story and spread some light and some hope on hopefully multiple people all over. That is definitely my goal. That's what I'm planning for. That's what, I feel like God gave me that gift of talking. I always laugh because I knew I had the gift of gab, but people make it seem like a bad thing a lot of times when you're younger. So when you get older, you kind of have to shift your mindset and how do I use this gift? This is what I'm teaching my kids. How do you use your gift? What do you want to do with it? And stop being ashamed about it and start using it for what he wants me to use it for. And I just think that that's it. So
yeah, shame is so tricky, man. It can just completely change and try to ruin your life. So, shedding the shame is necessary if you want to follow the dreams, and moving forward. So I know that you're going to make it. You are such a bright light. Just hearing your story, I know that you're going to be able to connect with people, and it's going to hit and it's going to help them and bless them. I can feel that for sure.
That sounds amazing here. I feel it. I accept that. And
Girl.
thank you so much for saying that. I'm trying not to cry.
Aw, don't want to make you do that, but if they're happy tears, bring them on.
They are. That's like my knee-jerk reaction to everything. So it just happens. I cry. I'm happy. I cry when I'm happy, sad, scared, all
Yeah.
that. So.
Yeah. You're just super authentic. And I know that's one of the things that you aspire to be and that you are. You want to be authentic to who you are, to yourself. You mentioned that being authentic leads to peace. And I'm sure you found that.
Yes, at 100%, because being your authentic self requires you to love yourself. And when you love yourself, there's just things that used to bother you that don't anymore. Like you said, that shame sheds when you learn how to be your authentic self, accept it and love it. And yeah, that's literally the basis around my podcast. It's called The Amanda Effect. So that's
So wait,
essentially what I want people to do.
this podcast is out there.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right? All right, we're gonna have to look. It's called The Amanda Effect.
On all major platforms that you listen to podcasts on. And so the goal is for you to walk away feeling, empowered and inspired and uplifted when you go forth so you can be your authentic self. I always end all of my shows at, remember to be authentic to yourself and others. I think others need to see you be authentic with you too. Hold them to your authentic forms and boundaries because that's important.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go listen right now. You're going to get another subscriber. Okay.
Thank you. We are on YouTube now too. Actually, there's just one episode on there now, but I just recorded the other one this morning. So it'll be out on Wednesday. But yeah, so we are on YouTube as well. So you can watch it there too. Thank you.
So where can we find you, Amanda? Tell us where you're at online.
Okay, so I'm everywhere, y'all, but you can find me at Amanda Jean Dukes on Facebook, Dukes1111 on Instagram, or you can just search my business, Dukes Multimedia. It's like that on Facebook and Instagram.
Nice. And people, like, if they need services, multimedia services, can patronize you, right? Like you're looking for clients?
Yes, absolutely. You can either reach out to me on any of my social media platforms, or you can go to my website and contact me there. It's just dukesmultimedia.com.
Perfect. Amanda, it was such a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for being authentically you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it is completely my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you to our guest today, and thank you for tuning in. Cheers. Until next time.